Hey guys, Bassmaster Elite Series Pro Destin DeMarion back with some more Bass Fishing 101 tips. So today we're going to talk a little bit about what are crankbaits and how do you distinguish between different crankbaits, and then which applications you're going to use those crankbaits for. So let's start off by how we would set up fishing with a crankbait. So we've got various different crankbaits. It runs the gamut from throwing on a short like 6.5 to 7-foot rod, a medium or a medium heavy, all the way up to almost an 8-foot medium heavy like glass cranking rod. So it's not as cut and dry with crankbaits, but as we go through each one, I'll kind of like touch upon what I would use to throw each one. Most of the time I'm going to throw a Revo winch. This one is not a winch, but I would throw the Revo winch, and then I'm going to throw it either on a Veracity or an Ike's Delay series. We've got a new series coming out pretty soon that I'm really excited about with Abu Garcia that I have been waiting for a while. As far as for cranking line, it's going to be really cool. It's going to be a really good new chatterbait rod. We got some other rods coming out for deep cranking and all kinds of stuff, so I'm really excited about that. But let's get into the crankbaits a little bit more. So let's delve into there. So here are some crankbaits. We're going to go over each different one here, depending on depth and bill design and all that, so we can kind of get you up to speed on what to look for crankbaits and be able to distinguish between that and the other. So let's start out with our our shallower diving one. So this is a squarebill crankbait. This is a Strike King 1.5. Most people use these ones for like shallow cranking and stuff. This is the one, KVD one, a classic with a long time ago. But what a squarebill does, this one only dives a couple feet deep. A squarebill is really good bill design for deflecting off cover. So you're going to hit this off stumps. You can crank it through some weeds too. It'll come through the weeds fairly decently, rip it out of the weeds, and the fish will react to it. But if you bang it off stumps, it'll hit off and deflect kind of aggressively like that, and the fish will eat it. It's more of a reaction bite with that. But that's a really versatile bait. Squarebills work almost everywhere in the country. So that is our squarebill. We also have a little bit deeper diving squarebill. This is the Wild Thing from Berkeley. This one dives a little deeper, and the way you can tell is the lip's a little bit longer than that one. And generally that's going to allow baits to get a little bit deeper. They're going to dig a little bit deeper. So same kind of thing, you're going to deflect this off of different things. This is actually kind of got, when it's got these little corners like this, you would consider that actually like a coffin kind of bill. It's a little bit different, but it's roughly the same application. And then we'll get into our shallow diving crankbaits, which you've got a rounded lip. So these can get down quicker, and that's what the idea is. They're going to get, that bill's going to help get them down a little quicker, and then you want to keep those baits digging off the bottom and hitting off stuff, and same kind of thing. They're not quite as snagless, I would say, as a square bill, but they've got a different purpose. Like I said, they're going to get down there quick, and you're just going to be hitting off the mud, hitting off sand. It's going to be kind of rooting around down there, and the fish will key in and eat that. Then to our one that doesn't have a bill, this is a lipless crankbait. The original was basically the rattle trap. Most people refer to any lipless crankbait as rattle trap. This one is a Berkeley War Pig. Rattle traps, cotton cordell, like super spots, those are kind of the originators. But with a lipless crank, you can kind of fish it anywhere in the water column. That's the good thing about it. Lipless cranks have vibration mostly. They've got little BBs in them, or some kind of something that's going to make a knocking sound. So this one's got a little bit of like BBs in it, so you can hear it kind of rattling around. And this one, you're going to kind of rip through grass. You reel along the tops of grass, rip it out, and the fish kind of come out and react to it. You can throw it, reel along rocks and stuff, because you can control the depth, like however much you really want. They're generally better if you're fishing them shallower, I would say 10 feet or less, but you can fish them deeper than that, and you can fish them right near the surface. I mean, they're a really versatile lure. You can just kind of burn them underneath the surface. There's a lot of things you can do with a lipless crankbait. And those generally excel early spring, winter months when it's cold for some reason, kind of like the blade baits. Let's get to our little bit deeper crank. So here's kind of a mid-range deep diver. You can see it's got a much longer bill than our shallow diver. It's a mega bass one. It's going to get down there quick too. The idea is you want to fish this in deeper water, so you want that bill to be able to get that bait down quick. And it's going to root around and do about the same thing with it. These deeper divers are good when the fish are kind of offshore, either in the winter or summer pattern. When it's hot, they're going to get offshore to kind of find cooler water, and the bait moves out that way as well. And then we'll move on to our Deep S diver, much bigger profile. This is an 8XD. This is a Strike King. So the 8XD, it's got this very big bill as well. It's going to get down there. This one can get down to like 20 plus feet, 20, 25 feet, and it's going to be able to root around down there a lot deeper than most plugs. It's also got a really big profile, so this excels when you're fishing places where you're catching bigger fish. The ledges of Tennessee River and places like that where you're ledge fishing, you're fishing those offshore schooling fish that are out there, and you can kind of cover some water and reel it through them, get down to where those fish are going to be positioned in the summer and like winter months as well. So those are our crankbaits. Let's talk a little bit more about applications of them. So we talked a little bit about the different kinds of crankbaits. So now you have a good idea of all the different kinds of crankbaits, when to use them, etc. The thing that we didn't touch upon as much was what kind of rod and reel setup to throw each one on. So with those shallower crankbaits that we started with, including, I will say, the lipless crankbait, basically a 6.5 to 7 foot rod. Most of the time I'm going to throw a glass one, like the Ike's Delay series. I'm going to throw like a medium with probably a smaller lipless crankbait and the shallow running crankbait, and I'm going to throw like a medium heavy to a heavy with those square bills because I'm cranking through a lot harder cover and I want it to rebound a lot quicker. And I'm going to throw those most of the time on line from 12 pound to about 20 pound. The line size is going to help you keep that bait shallower or deeper. The heavier you go, the more the line is going to ride up and keep the bait shallower, just as a rule of thumb. Then with those deeper baits, a lot of times you want it to get as deep as possible, and you're going to sacrifice a little bit of your line, like pound strength, just to get it there. So with deep cranking, a lot of times I'm going to go with a 10 to 12 pound test. Once in a while with like a big one like this, I might go 14 or 15 pound fluorocarbon. And I'm going to throw those deeper crankbaits on a rod that's anywhere from 7.3 to 8 feet long, and that's going to be medium heavy to a heavy glass or composite rod. And the reason being, I want there to be a slight delay when the fish eats it, because otherwise, if there's not, that glass is a little bit less sensitive and it loads up a little bit more than graphite. So otherwise, you're going to feel that bite too quickly, and you might pull it away from the fish. With the glass, it's going to allow that fish to eat it and get it down their mouth a little bit easier. So guys, I hope that helped out. Stay tuned for more informational videos. If you guys have any ideas or questions about the crankbaits or anything we just talked about, feel free to comment below, and we'll be coming out with more content soon.